Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Baseball Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia. That guy over there is the Welsh, and it's you. And today, it's all about the breakouts. And yes, there's many different definitions of what a breakout is, and we're going to try to give you as many as we can on today's podcast. But before we do, I want to remind everybody, make sure that you are getting involved in the giveaway because we've got a new one. It's that Austin Riley jersey, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com. Just head over to fantasypros.com/MLB contest. All you got to do, you know the drill, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/FantasyPros MLB. Again, that's the MLB one. That's what you're looking for specifically. We know you subscribe to the regular Fantasy Pros, and we love you for that. But we got to give the MLB channel some love because every day we've got leading off, starting with Welsh and myself and our cast of characters, Monday through Friday, baseball right in your face. And that's going to be out there on that YouTube channel as well. But like I said, you screenshot your subscription, you go to fantasypros.com/MLB contest, and you enter, and that Austin Riley jersey could very well be yours. That's right. It could be yours. Also, I know y'all got drafts coming up. We're kind of in that last weekend of drafts. So make sure you go check out our MLB draft kit over at fantasypros.com/kit because it's free. It's awesome. Welsh, I mean, I don't know if there's many things in life that are free and awesome. Do you know of many? Because I don't.
Let's see. This podcast, that kit, sunshine. That's it.
Those are good things. That's a good list of things. Perhaps a slap from somebody if you get out of line, that could be free.
There's a 5-finger say to the say slap.
Oh,
did you see my meme? Did you see my meme?
I did not see your meme. By the way,
it's it's a whole nother story to talk about. But a lot of John.
I did see something else.
A lot of John Lackeys were for me, and I had to do a meme of. I did a Chris Rock, Will Smith meme of someone calls me John Lackey, and the Welsh goes slap.
There is a John Lackey quality to the Welsh, and this is also why you subscribe to the YouTube channel. But going back to the draft kit, you do have to go to fantasypros.com/kit to get it. And I'm telling you, you're going to dominate your drafts with the MLB draft kit that we're offering right now. Fantasy Pros, you got the consensus rankings, the projections, the salary cap values for all you guys doing salary cap drafts. You got the printable cheat sheets, also our sleepers, our busts, our draft strategies. All that is together, even the prospect stuff for the dynasty leagues at fantasypros.com/kit. So go check that out as well. Now, Welsh, I know that you might not have seen John Lackey this past weekend, but you did run into a San Diego Padre and a pitcher. And it was the greatest picture ever. So what was it like, you and Blake Snell having a private moment together?
Me and Blake Snell, man, we was staying hydrated. We was crazy. He's crazy. Yes, I did get to take a picture and meet the aforementioned Blake Snell, I got to tell you, of all the things I've posted, the thing that got the most traction I've ever posted, obviously, is my home run call, the Fernando Tatis Jr. home run call, because that had its own life. It was on ESPN and stuff. This, though, had the funniest comments, because easy to hurt my feelings in the Fernando Tatis call one, not liking my voice or something. This, everybody jumped in on it. And one of the common themes, though, was everybody asking, does Snell know your impression? No. If he did, might have gone a little bit different, though I did kind of get a pseudo threatened by our dear friend Paul Spohr, who is friends with Blake Snell, and he said, I'm gonna share with him your impression. I was like, oh god, maybe please.
I was hoping you were doing the impression right to his face, and he really didn't even notice. That was that was what was going on inside my head.
No, you have to do total troll mentality, man. You have to, internet tough guy. You have to do your internet thing or your podcast thing, and then in person you got to go, oh hi Blake, I'm such a fan. Can I take a picture? That's what you got to do. That's the impression of what you do when you do an impression of him. That's but Scott Bogman did write, so I don't know if you saw this. This dropped today. That picture got so much traction that our dear friend Scott Bogman wrote lyrics, because I joked around how it could be an album cover, and we do have an album cover. I
saw the album cover, which was pretty awesome.
Would you like to hear some of the lyrics?
Or
not the lyrics, I mean the tracks. Some tracks. You want to hear the tracks?
Oh, yes,
okay.
the track sounds, yeah.
So track number 1 is Gotta Get Mine. 2 is Mud People. That's a me thing. 3 is Not Very Nice. Can't Get Out of the 6. And he said out of the 6. 4 is Sweating for Water. Sweating for water? It's so hot out here, man. Number 5 is Traded and Faded. Number 6 is Change or Not to Change Up. Number 7 is Mean, Spotty Facial Hair. And number 8 is I'm Risking My Life. Risk it. I think that's the album title. I think that'll be me and Blake's album title.
Risk in My Life is definitely it. And I love that it was spelled with a Y. That was the most important, that life was spelled with a Y.
You know what the worst part about it is? Blake couldn't be a nicer, more funny person as well. He's not like crudgy or anything. He's very funny. He's very funny how he interacts with people. He loved to take pictures and stuff. And, you know, he didn't know what he was getting into. Just this dummy taking a picture with him and then going online and everybody having a lot of fun with it. Few mean ones out there about Blake getting into the six.
There's always a few mean ones. What are you gonna do?
I did it, man. I got mine. We stayed hydrated. We did a thing. And I did not like your tweet, by the way, where you're like, if we get 1,000, it'll do an impression the entire show. I didn't sign up for that, and that would be a nightmare.
I know you didn't. Well, luckily you didn't get 1,000, so you're out of that. So if you want to go find that tweet at JoePisapia17 and get it up to 1,000 likes, we could do that. So I mean, that's still on the table. Cards are on the table. Now, today we're going to go through the all breakout team, which last week we did the all bust team. Obviously, you know, that went over huge because, you know, we do such great work over here at Fantasy Pros. But the breakout team is a little trickier because you were mentioning before the show, you're sort of limited, right? You don't have a lot of guys. You're typically looking for the young guys, but you don't want to go with all rookies on this kind of team because that's just too easy, because not all rookies are the guys that have breakouts. You have guys that have breakouts sometimes in their third or even fourth season or later in the major leagues. It's hard to identify them, but we're going to do our best today. And I got to say, most of the guys in this list are either, I would say, young or post-hype sleepers, or guys that, you know, we see that there's still potential and they haven't realized it. I feel like that's kind of what breakout is. Breakout is a much wider definition, but I feel like we're going to have a bunch of those different definitions in some of the guys that we're going to be picking today.
Yeah, but it is tougher. That's what I was saying to you. Like, I felt like, you know, if you're talking about bust, you really can go to anybody. But I felt like this pool was just, it's a smaller pool to pick from because there's so many guys that you're not going to qualify as your breakouts. So I felt, you know, you had a really good list. Your list was out before mine was. And it took me a little bit to kind of, like, think really identify, you know, where the breakouts are going to come from. And I think I even toe the line a little bit of the identifying of what a breakout really is. But we'll see what people think.
All right, well, let's see what people think of the catcher. Welsh, who you have as your breakout catcher for 2022?
Well, I thought you stole the good one. You stole the really, really good one. But, you know, I think this is the other guy. And again, if you look at catchers, like how many, I don't know about you, but like when you look, like how many catchers were there really out there for us to choose from if you're talking about breakout? There's some older guys that have kind of like, I'll behind the scenes, Max Stasey was one that I kind of thought about, but I was like, is this not like a breakout? Mitch Garver, that's not a breakout. So
Mitch Garver already had a huge breakout season a couple years ago.
Exactly.
So I felt like that was kind of cheating because it already happened. That's the other problem. That's more of a bounce back than a.
Had you identified this as maybe like the all value team, I think this could have been a different discussion and it would have been a different set of players. And Garver and Stasey, probably Stasey honestly might have been my pick. But with this one, I'm going over to the Giants and I'm going to go with the guy that's replacing Buster Posey, and I'm going to take Joey Bart. Now, I'm going to have kind of a theme to a lot of my guys. I have a lot of these second year kind of underperforming rookies. Giants GM just recently said that Bart has looked as good as he's ever looked. He's been working with definitely a big crew of catchers. He's going to go between being able to play catcher or DH because they want to keep his bat in the lineup. His bat just hasn't been consistent. But I think one key here, especially for him staying in the lineup, is this is, if I know it correctly, this is the first like real offseason that he has had a full run with all of the starting pitchers, all of the major leaguers, and a job that he is walking in with him. And that is significant. I think that is significant enough. Even Joe Adell is a guy that didn't have that, and this is like that first year. Those guys jumping into that space is pretty important. And Joey Bart has been always a pretty decent contact guy. There's 30 plus power in there for sure. He could go the way of, I actually think he could be very mimic like a Gary Sanchez, where he could have a couple really good years of high batting average and high homers, and then they could fall apart as well. But Joey Bart is free in drafts right now. He's got a home on multiple spots. The DH is really important to his bat. And I think when you're just playing around at the bottom pool of catchers, if you really want to talk about breakouts, Joey Bart is a guy that could potentially move himself up into a catcher 1 in a 12, probably more like a 15-man league. You're hitting in Colorado, you're hitting in Arizona. There's some really, really good hitter-friendly parks interdivision-wise. I'm going to take Joey Bart.
I like it. And the guy that Welsh is alluding to that I took for catcher is Tyler Stevenson, who, last year hit for a 286 average, had 10 home runs. I think the reason why I'm high on Stevenson this year is I think a better spot in the batting order is going to be there for him. So that is huge. And we're always evaluating this talent. I think now that you've gotten rid of Winker and Suarez, there's no way you can't imagine Stevenson, if you want to hit him 6 or 5, who knows? Maybe some days you want to hit him 2 potentially. So basically who's left in that lineup? You got Joey Votto left in that lineup. You got Jonathan India left in that lineup. Tyler Naquin's around. I mean, I think that Stevenson is a player that, I know catchers don't play every day, but I do believe even with that DH, maybe he's going to see a little bit more at-bats to get that bat in the lineup. So there's 2 things going for his favor I like so much besides the nice season he put together last year, the good peripherals from last year we all know of, but what's going for him this year is I think a move up the lineup and that DH, because if he is swinging the bat pretty well, you can still get him in the lineup, and I think those DH at-bats are going to be crucial because when you have catchers that are going to not just take a day off, but take a day off and still swing the bat, that's big. That really matters a great deal because that's going to be an extra, let's see, 4 times 3, carry the 1. I mean, that could be an extra 100 at-bats over the season.
And Ruster Resource has him set at 4 right now, which is a fantastic part of the lineup to hit. Like you said, the DH allowing him to move spots. He could play first base, if there's any injury stuff with Joey Votto. Kind of flexible, really smart kid. I actually interviewed him in the Arizona Fall League. He won I forget the name of it, so apologies, but it's kind of like the personality, like the guy of the year in the AFL, not the best performer, but like the best team leader. Cole Tucker had won it, and Tyler Stevenson won it the year after.
That's Miscongeniality. I'm pretty
sure. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. And he came out.
He's like the Sandra Bullock of the Cincinnati Reds organization, is what you're saying.
Totally. And he was all like cowboyed up when he came out too. He had some big old boots on, and he was out in the field. He's just like a really nice guy, good hitter. He's actually best friends with Taylor Trammell, who's now with the Seattle Mariners, and he's got a big bat. And there is big home run potential, and he's played some first. So a little bit of flexibility I like out of him. High in the lineup I like out of him. It just got to determine our guy's going to be on base. But you do have Jonathan India, who Roster Resource has as leading off, Tyler Naquin and Joey Votto in front of him. That's not a bad group. That might be a sneaky 75, 80 RBI that come into a guy like Tyler Stevenson. And the thing we have to quantify for all catchers is there's more potential at bats for every single one of these guys. We just don't 100% know who. Like Will Smith.
But if it's a guy who's hitting cleanup every day, is far more likely it's going to be somebody like Stevenson because
that's what I'm
who
saying.
Takes that spot when he's out.
Varsho, Will Smith, like I said, not the puncher, the Dodger. He's a guy that's going to be in the DH spot, and then you're going to get Tyler Stevenson. So it's not every single catcher, but it's on the table for any catcher with a bat to get more at bats this year, which also might even be a little bit of a separator when we look at Dalton Varsho is so much more valuable because he's an outfielder. It's like, well, it's probably going to be a level playing field. He's more valuable because of the stolen bases. But I digress. Stevenson and Bart, breakout catchers.
All right, who's the first baseman on your list, Welsh?
Oh, first baseman. I really liked yours. So this one is...
I think take mine. We can talk about it together.
I love your guy. But no, I picked actually a guy that hasn't done anything. So he's not only going to break out, he's got to break in. And I'm going with Spencer Torkelson because I went through the first baseman, and I didn't see really any that I would, like I said, I would quantify as like a breakout first baseman. I think there's some great values later on with a whole bunch of guys, even into the CJ Crones and stuff. But Torkelson, the breakout is simply him breaking through the roster, and I think he will. I think he's got a legit shot. I've said it a gajillion times over. Miggy wants him to play first, even though he was drafted as the third baseman. They want him there. He's got multi-position eligibility, good defender, and he's got a live bat. And he's kind of free. These rookies, Bobby Witt's not free. He's sure not. He's been moving up into the top.
Not after 50. Last week, especially.
Well,
he should. I mean, Bobby Witt's awesome.
The NFBC, some of the drafts, I think the main events, he was going in the top 50, 60. So he's not free anymore. Torkelson is still free, and he has got a very good opportunity to break camp. And, it's tough to say with a rookie and the bumps he's going to go through. He's a little bit susceptible to stuff in the zone. It's kind of been his little, notch that guys have known on him, his rub since ASU, since he was there. And he's been working on that lower half, especially on breaking pitches. And that could be a little bit of a problem. I've also seen him get really, really heavy kind of singles hittery, like not lofting the ball a whole bunch, which could maybe have shades of like first year Vladimir Guerrero, but it doesn't matter. He's free. So I'm going to take as a first baseman on my all breakout team. I'll go with Spencer Torkelson.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I mean, I know it's a trendy rookie, but it doesn't mean it can't come to fruition. For me, it's a guy that got a taste of the big leagues last year, and he was okay. Alex Kirilloff. Not everybody comes up and just absolutely mashes from the get-go. But if you look at the track record historically of Alex Kirilloff, you go back at 281 minor league games, the guy hit 318 with a 366 OBP, a 503 slugging, an 869 OPS. This is a guy who can get on base. He's going to make contact. He's got some pop. I think he's going to grow a little bit more power as time goes by. You have to go back a couple years to see like a bigger power season, that combination, but he's only 24 years old. So there's still, some growth potential there, but Kirilloff qualifies at first. He qualifies at outfield. So it gives you a position flexibility. And I feel like he's a player people have kind of forgotten about. And that's perfect because he is going to be a nice player. I'm looking like player profile wise. Could he be an all-star level nice player? Probably at some point he could get there. But at the very least, right now, when you're looking at ADP and you're looking at the opportunity for guys like Kirilloff, to me, it's a no-brainer, especially if you're looking in those leagues where you're playing in those corner infielders. You're looking for a guy who might have some upside still. To me, it's Kirilloff, and right now he is going at 185 overall. He is the 25th first baseman off the board. So I'm a Kirilloff guy. Why are you a Kirilloff guy, Welsh?
I love is another guy I got to actually speak to some years ago on my show Prospect One. His dad is a pretty prolific hitting coach. He's got, I think, like a whole hitting series that he does, and he trains kids.
Yeah, Tom Amansky? Is that his dad?
No, I don't.
Stepdad?
I think it's an actual Kirilloff. It's an actual
well, you don't know.
I remember like the videos, the like late at night videos where it's like, do you want to learn?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, didn't Billy Ripken also have? Doesn't he still have like a hitting series?
He did, but his got banned because they had bad language in it.
Yeah, the bottom of the bat. No, Kirilloff, really, really smart hitter. That's kind of a thing I really attach myself to with a lot of prospects. Is this a high contact type of hitter? And that's who Kirilloff has always been. You said he's been 300 plus throughout his minor league career. His first step into the majors, hits 250. He kind of was working. He's been working over the last couple of years. He's had little nicks and injuries. He had a wrist injury that left him coming out of the AFL in 2019. So getting like real distinct at bats has been important for him. He's a groove guy. He's got a beautiful swing. He does get loft into his swing. And I don't think 250 is indicative of who he is. I truly, truly believe that Alex Kirilloff is a 280 to 300 type of hitter consistently. And I would actually liken him maybe to a little bit more like a Goldie as far as a hitter he's going to be, that with that type of contact, he's going to step into power. I don't think he's going to steal a whole lot. And athleticism is a little bit in question. So first base, I think, is his ultimate home. But I believe in him as a hitter. And this is a guy that just doesn't have enough major league at-bats to prove anything. So if I were keeping with my trend of some of the guys I'm trying to go with, this is a prime candidate of the, all of those high-end rookies over the last year and a half that have been coming up and not been producing. They had COVID, you had weird training regimens, you had all of the restrictions that were out there. And then also these guys take a little bit sometimes. And Kirilloff is a prime example of that. And I love that pick.
Yeah, honestly, had COVID not happened, there might be a chance he might be further along already. So I think that 2020 definitely set a lot of guys like him who were right on that precipice that year in development. It set them back a whole season. There's no doubt for me.
Also in 2019 in the Arizona Fall League, I got to speak with Royce Lewis. And when I was interviewing him, I'd kind of asked like, hey, where is Alex? And he had hurt his wrist earlier that year. And it was leading up, and he got right back in time for the minor league playoffs, and he just didn't want to come. Like, he wasn't ready yet. And then you had COVID, and then you had the 2001 season all stacked on top of it. And it pushed guys like Royce Lewis got pushed back as well. Royce lost the entire last year with injury. So both of those guys, had you not had the COVID year, probably would have been big impacts in 2021. Kirilloff was a little bit. This will be the adjustment period for Alex Kirilloff, and then this will probably be the actual, run for Royce Lewis this year.
All right, let's move across the diamond to second base now. Who is the second baseman that makes your all breakout team, Welsh?
So this is one of probably like two players that might push the limits of this trend that I'm going with, but I'm going with Josh Rojas with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Josh Rojas, who, by the way, has 49 games played last year at second base. He had, I think, like 11 or 12 or something at shortstop and outfield. So pending the league or the format site that you play on, he might have 2 to 3 different position eligibilities for him, which is really nice. Josh Rojas looks like he's going to lead off for the Arizona Diamondbacks this year. Something that it's not the biggest deal in the world. The Diamondbacks just re-signed Ketel Marte, which they look like they're in a really bad spot for what they're doing and how much money they don't want to spend. But that they just re-signed Ketel Marte to keep him for 5 more years really says something to me about a guy like him not going this year. And then, oh my God, who is going to hit Josh Rojas in? Who is going to be there? Is it going to be Pavin Smith, Christian Walker, and Rojas? No, Ketel's going to stay, and he's going to be here for a while. And maybe they'll be more aggressive. And how does that relate to Rojas? Well, these are the guys that are going to be hitting behind him. He leads off for the Diamondbacks, which is huge. More at bats. This is a double-digit steals and homer guy. Hit a homer just the other day in spring training. Crushed. I'm trying to remember who it was off of. I want to say Greinke or something. He just absolutely crushed it. This is a 15-15 guy who's going to lead off for the Diamondbacks. Probably 80-plus runs because it's not a very good team. But I think this is the opportunity where I think most site projections have him around like 11 or 12 homers, 11 or 12 stolen bases, that he could push 20-20 because he's going to push the
wow, really? 20 dingers, you think?
The power is there. I mean, if I were like putting money on it, I would go more 15-20. But the problem is the positive is he's going to get so many more at bats than the rest of these Diamondbacks.
It's fair.
Assuming they can actually turn the lineup over. More opportunities as long as he doesn't struggle is great. Plus, he's roster flexible where he can move around. There's not a lot of reason to take him out of the lineup because he can play outfield, shortstop, second base. How many guys do you have like that I think, you're going to push high into the 600s of at-bats? That might get him a couple more homers. So 15 plus if I were breaking out, but maybe 20 stolen bases. Lovullo is bad about stealing bases, but his job is on the line, and the Diamondbacks have got to manufacture runs. And that's what I like about Rojas. The stolen bases might be extra sneaky. So I'm going to pick him for my second base breakout.
All right, for my second base breakout, it's Brendan Rodgers. Let's go, baby. I'm excited. Colorado bats always make me happy. Yes. And last year, I mean, if you're looking at what he did last year, 284, 328, 470 slash. Okay, I'll take that for a guy who's 24 years old. Again, it's funny, same age as Kirilloff, right? So a lot of my breakout guys are kind of, a little past the prospect age of, maybe a little bit of blooms off the rose. But once upon a time, Brendan Rodgers was this guy that everybody was basically falling over themselves to draft. If you look at his minor league track record, I know some favorable ballparks there too, but the minor leagues for him, this is a guy that hit 298, 354, 504. You always saw the power there, a career 858 OPS there in the minor leagues. So to me, that's going to track. He's going to get a fair amount of playing time. The Ramiel Tapia trade really opens up time for Connor Joe now. So I feel like Brendan Rodgers, this is his job now, I feel like. And we had 102 games last year. He performed pretty well. You're always going to worry a little bit about guys outside of Colorado. I get that. But at the same time, when you're looking at value and you're looking at potential that you're going to look, he's going after guys like Gleyber Torres. He's going after guys like Cronenworth. He's going all the way down at second baseman number 21. He's 175 overall. That is really cheap. So for me, Brendan Rodgers, this guy that I think is going to hit for a decent average, probably going to approach 20 bombs. That's pretty good at second base because there's not a lot of guys at second base after you get past that first grouping. I feel like Polanco's that cutoff, and then after that, it's a little dicey from like 10 to 20. And then there's guys I like after that, and one of them is definitely Brendan Rodgers. So let's move over to the third base side, the hot corner. Who's manning the hot corner on the all breakout team for the Welsh?
I am going with Alec Bohm. This is one of those guys I've talked about a couple times where it's like there's just not enough career at bats. I think he's got just under 600 career plate appearances. It's spread out from 2020, and it feels like he's got a lot more. But this guy has like one legit season under his belt spread across these last 2 years. He's turning 25. He's a feel guy. That was the thing that when I spoke with him, like he wasn't into like a lot of analytics and he wasn't into launch angle. He was a feel guy with pure raw power. So he knew when he made contact, the ball was going to travel. Now, since that time, he's made it to the majors. He's gotten to work with Bryce Harper, who took him under his wing. I think he's felt some serious struggles. His strikeout rate, I think, was kind of one of the highest that he's dealt with. It was a 26, almost 27% last year. And he's usually I think he's at a career 24%. That might actually only be doing the majors. I mean, in the minors, he really never had, outside of like 10 plate appearances, he never had a season over 20 strikeout percent. So, I mean, he's striking out a little bit more. He's pressing as he's learning who he is as a hitter. This is prime time for him to learn who he is as a hitter. And there's a lot of good boppers in there. They bring in like Castellanos and Schwarber as well.
Oh, far less pressure on him in that lineup now than there was last year. Last year, there was so much pressure on that kid, I felt like. And now none of it.
And also think about the possibility of, I'd have to look where he is in the lineup. I'm assuming he's going to hit like 6 or 7. But the guys that are going to be in front of him are most likely going to be the Schwarbers, the Castellanos, and the Harpers. There might be really great RBI opportunities, and for a guy that is more hit than he is power, he's like an anti-Schwarber. Like Schwarber is just a grip it and rip it type of guy. That's not Bohm. So I tend to lean a little bit. Hopefully, he's embraced analytics a little bit more, and having a guy like Harper under your belt is fantastic. And there's a lot of other good power hitters that maybe can rub off on different ways to attack the ball. That this seems like the prime year. You talk about it. This is the post-hype sleeper. A lot of these guys are these. Alex Kirilloff, prime example, post-hype sleeper. Everybody loved him. Came up. He was all right.
Even Rodgers to a certain extent. Like everybody waited so long.
Post-hype sleeper.
But he's only 24. I mean, let's give this kid a break, and he's in Colorado. I mean, if he plays 140 games this year, there's no way he's not going to give you productivity. I mean, it's just crazy. But I love the point you make about Bohm in that lineup too. Now, I think it's a very different feel for him coming into the 2022 season, which really matters.
Yeah, and like I said, full season of at bats, post hype sleeper. These are a lot of. Rodgers is like. Let me look here at the guys that we've talked about because I'm forgetting. Rodgers is probably Stevenson and Rodgers, maybe the most expensive guys that we've talked about. Most of these players are like post 200 so far for the most part. Yeah. Like maybe post 175. These are in the free range of players, especially Bohm is a guy that I've done plenty of drafts where he doesn't go. So you can get him as a corner infielder. Maybe you want to put him on the watch. Just watch out because, like I said, this is a more feel hitter than he is a, struggling big power hitter who's not finding his way. Like him hitting 220 doesn't really make sense unless he's gone as a prospect. Him hitting 270 with a bunch of doubles and maybe lower on homers, that is a more plausible range. But those are good possibilities, maybe high RBIs. Just watch out for Alec Bohm.
All right, watch out for Gabrian Hayes. That's my third baseman, my breakout guy.
Great.
We often talk about the guys who show up into camp in the best shape of their life. Well, Hayes is actually in pretty good shape. Like he looks pretty good. He looks like he is ready to have a healthy season. So hoping for the best there. It was kind of a disappointment because it kind of started off quick, if we recall, last April, and then he got hurt right away, and it was just basically chasing waterfalls after that. Poor Gabrian Hayes.
I love. By the way, that tweet they put out, I think it was like the Pirates or something, or I don't remember who did it. They did everything but say he's in the best shape of his life. They danced really around the idea. He was just jacked, and he's out there, and they're like, Gabrian Hayes physically looks amazing, and they're all touting. Just say best shape of his life. Just say it.
But I mean, when you're a career 400 slugging percentage guy and you play a corner spot, you better be like Matt Chapman glove.
Yeah.
Like that, you've got to be that level. So I think, he realizes it. Like, I've got to hit for more power. So if you're going to bulk up a little bit in the offseason and come in there ready to go hit some more home runs, if you can get up to that 20 mark, once again, I think he's more of a corner guy than he is a starting third baseman, unless you're in a very deep league. But when you have to start taking shots at guys, because third base isn't great this year, you end up in that mix of the Ty France, Yohan Moncada, Gabrian Hayes, right? Gabrian Hayes is at 169. I think I'd rather have Gabrian Hayes at this point at the cheaper ADPs, 18th third baseman off the board. And then you go Hayes after that, guys like Suarez and Escobar. What's that?
And Hayes can run a little bit too.
Right. And exactly. You're 100% right. Roto leagues, you could probably throw you 5 to 10 steals.
Yeah, like how many guys at third base are you really going to get significant stolen bases for? Obviously, Jose Ramirez. I think really late, a guy like John VR might be kind of sneaky now that he's with the Cubs and he qualifies at third. But Hayes is one of those guys where, it's interesting what you said too. You've seen a lot of teams do this opposite where you have these power guys. They want to move to these other positions that aren't necessarily prime, like Andrew Vaughn, when I told you he did some work out at second and stuff like that, where they
moved to the outfield last year.
Yeah, they don't necessarily
for him to play.
They want power everywhere. So Hayes has obviously got to embrace that. And he's a pure raw power guy. He just has not tapped into it. But this is a young kid. This is a contact kid in the minors who has not tapped into it.
If he played full season and he gives me like 18 home runs and 8 stolen bases or something like that and hits 265 or 270, I'll take that. The ADP, I think that's a decent return on investment. Let me ask you something. I think there's a chance you could even have more if he is indeed tapping into that power ceiling. What's the question?
Have you looked at any of the projections on him?
That was one I just looked at that was kind of close to that. What does ATC have him at?
Well, I wanted to ask you. I wanted you to take a guess at projection. Like pick a system and then you guess.
I mean, let's do Ariel because he's our friend.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do Ariel.
I would think it would be 15 home runs or 14 home runs, something like that, probably. Am I right on the home runs?
Absolutely nailed it. 15 homers
15 home runs
in 141 games.
265 batting average, give or take.
I mean, are you looking at it? 260. Yeah,
I'm not looking at it.
It is 265. All right, now let do runs.
That's the tricky one. The 72.
Oh my! I was about to say what numbers for the Powerball tonight. 77. 60. Well, I just ruined it. 63 RBI. How many stolen bases do you think ATC has him projected at?
I'm gonna stick with my 8 because that was my number anyway. I think that's a good
12.
number. Okay, well that's great.
So 15 and 12 with a 265 batting average. That's not really built. I don't think ATC and nor do any projection systems really build in the upside of these guys like finding their way in their sophomore year. So I just want to say a projection system, which has got to model the median line, and this is an aggregate system, has ATC is the highest in stolen bases and highest in homers. So think that's the middle. So if you believe that Ke'Bryan Hayes is going to make the proper adjustments this year, you believe in him as an athlete, could you be 2015 on a third baseman hitting 275 and go 75-75? Guess what? If you do, that's top 100 value, and you're getting him near the 200s. It's risky because you're betting on a rookie or a sophomore young player, but the idea of the breakouts is this, and this is why he's like a fun corner infielder to get.
Yeah, still very cheap. That's what we're all about. Now, shortstop. I mean, this is probably the easiest one for both of us. I'm sure you knew exactly who you were going to say, and I knew exactly who I was going to say. So no spoilers. If you listen to the show, you know who Welsh is. So go ahead, talk about Ahmed Rosario. Yeah,
Ahmed Rosario. I mean, I tried to find like other guys, but again, going with the breakouts, I don't know. There's rookies I think about, but that's not really the breakout. I go with Ahmed Rosario. He kind of broke out last year. We did do the show where we were talking about, who is the next Cedric Mullins, and I picked him. What was it? 6 most hits from July to September. Power speed combo, hitting at the top of the lineup. He's really kind of found himself as a power hitter, which he was never in the minors. I think 15 to 20 is the max. So I don't think he can truly be Cedric Mullins, but I believe he can steal more than 15 stolen bases. And I think he can hit.
Well, he's done it before. He's done it twice.
Yeah.
And 19 and 24 in years with the Mets. So speed's not the problem for Rosario. The problem with Rosario was always the glove and the range at shortstop. That to me, there was always a problem. And also I found, watching him as much as I did over the years, he didn't hit good pitching. Like, he could go out there and the quad A guys or the relievers he'd beat up on. But if you gave him any good pitching, he was toast. Now, again, I didn't watch a lot of Ahmed Rosario at bats last year, on full disclosure. But if he can make that adjustment here, a little later in his career, that's going to help him certainly kind of maybe reach that potential you're talking about.
Yeah, and he's like to the 20 strikeout marker. He walked more this past year than he ever did before. And projections are not favorable, even though you say, he did steal 24 bases in 2018. He's failed to get 20 any other year. But even ATC has him at 14 stolen bases, but almost a 280 batting average, hitting near the top of the lineup. It's not a great lineup, but again, this is going to be an aggressive team. I think 20 stolen bases is pretty easy in line. You could be in that 15 homer marker. I know I feel like I've mentioned multiple guys in the same place, but this is the marker that I have on them. I'm not afraid to go into battle with Josh Rojas and Ahmed Rosario on my team, preferably middle and corner. But those are guys that are those cheap stolen base. They qualify at multiple positions. And if Rosario does, let's say, push that 20, like let's say he'll easily be, I think, a 20 stolen base guy, even though projections at 14. I think if he pushes the 2020, you're talking about Rosario maybe being inside the top 50 this coming year. So he's just a guy that I want to jump all over, get all the stuff, and even the runs. If we can push 80-plus runs, he's a pretty easy breakout candidate, I think.
You know what I was just thinking, Welsh? All those people who spend all those hours and weeks and months working these projection systems, all you need is Joe Pisapia's brain. Really, I could just spout out the numbers. Apparently, it's the same stuff. I just realized that.
I mean, if you had gotten one more, I'm telling you, if you had gotten one more, I'd have said, "All right, I'll call you in 20 minutes. We're gonna go over. I'm gonna go to the store. We're gonna play some Arizona Powerball, and you're gonna pick my numbers for me."
But I mean, projection systems are all trying to give you the best, I think the most accurate, best-ish case scenario, and they're all based in something that the guy has just done previously for the most part, with some sort of mild rehash. So the mild look ahead after the rehash is a little bit of growth. So if you just kind of take what you saw last year and put a little growth, that's kind of what it it would be.
It's tough. It's tough because like you can predict some things. Whatever a pitcher's xFIP was the year before, that will be the projected ERA most likely for a pitcher. If you look over 3 years, and if you can mentally do math quick and you look over a 3-year marker, you can probably find the averages pretty quick. If it's 30 and 20 and 25, guess what?
I love 3-year averages.
Probably going to have 25.
Average whore.
Well, that's what a lot of projection systems go off of, and you're probably going to find
because it's good. It's good data. Because 3-year average gives you a really strong sample size of the identity of a player over a period of time.
Where they're differing themselves a little bit is like Cardi with the Bat X there's a lot more ballpark factors that are being involved in it, which I think open it up. And ATC specifically is really unique because it's an aggregate of everything. So if you don't I think there's some people that love Steamer. There's some that, love the Bat or the Bat X. And if you don't want to play that game, ATC just gets them all and finds you a good median value. And that's why, to Ariel's credit, Ariel's ATC is 3-time Fantasy Pro most accurate projection system.
And not only, I was going to say, now I was going to pop him, not only did he win last year at the most accurate, but guess who was number 2? The Fantasy Pro system. How about them apples? That's right. Not bad.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Nice.
Yeah, that's right. Number 2.
Let's go.
You can't give yourself awards though. Then you just got to slap yourself in the face.
You can. You could also you could also put us in the running to win those autographed jerseys too. I mean, we can do things if we want.
Technically, I could unsubscribe to the channel and then resubscribe and try to win the Austin Riley jersey, but it seems like a lot of work at this point for me. All right, I want to talk to you about Willy Adams. That's my shortstop of choice. Last year, he's been complaining for years about the batter's eye in Tropicana Field, and it showed. He had a $197 over 40 games last year there. He was just dreadful. He was terrible. They deal him to Milwaukee, and what a difference the move makes. He then goes on over the last 99 games of the season to hit 285 with a 366 OBP and a 521 slugging, and 886 OPS. Just getting the heck out of Tampa is all he needed. He hit 20 bombs there, so 25 on the year, but 20 of them in those 99 games for Milwaukee. And I just think this is a guy that's got a whole new lease on life. I also like the fact that they've got Hunter Renfroe there. I also like the fact that, if you do believe that you can get Christian Yelich to bounce back in this lineup might be better than people realize if Yelich bounces back. He is kind of the linchpin for me. I wish they had done maybe one more thing to give them a little bit more of a cushion, but Willy Adams, to me, is that guy that I'm all over this year. I love drafting him at shortstop. I think he can give you power. I think when everybody talks about a deep shortstop, it's so deep. It is, but you could also wait on it. And if you choose to, then you can get him at 136 overall, and he's the 20th shortstop off the board.
He's one of those guys where I'm not afraid to. He kills me too, man. He's one of those guys I was so big on when he was a Ray, and he never clicked. And then
because you watched him play in the minor leagues, you're like, this guy's got.
And I let him go.
He's got that thing.
Yeah.
But he just couldn't see the baseball. I mean, it literally, you look at the splits and it's there. It's just so obviously how bad he was in that ballpark. And I think when you have any major league talent, I think it starts to wear on them mentally, where it's like, oh, why can't I do this? And then they press, and then they have the pressure of who's the next kid coming behind me? Oh, it's this Wander Franco guy. He was unbelievable.
Well,
and
that's also,
I just think for him, he just needed to change the salary. And people will say, well, he broke out already. 99 games isn't enough for me. I want a full season breakout. That's what I'm looking for here. I think he can go from 20, Welsh, honestly. I think he could be a 30 home run guy, and that to me is a breakout. Yeah,
and that's why, they talk about change of scenery. Sometimes it is necessary. It just kills me. He's one of those guys, we all have it, where you're in, then it doesn't work, then it doesn't work again. I think like 3 years ago, I had him as like a breakout, and then it was like, all right, we're just not happening. And the change of scenery was everything for him. And people also forget, Willy Adames was the core piece in the David Price trade. The David Price trade between the Rays and the Detroit Tigers. It was like 4 guys. Everyone got up in arms about it, but Adames at that time was like low A, and he was the linchpin to that move. So he's a rock star.
Some guys never figure it out. Some of those guys you love and they never figure it out. Who's that Angels third baseman? Was it Brandon Wood? Was that his name?
McPherson, Brandon Wood, both of them. Brandon Wood was the big one, yeah.
And Gordon Beckham, remember him too? It was another guy that was just trying to wait for him to break out, and it just never happened. Some guys, it never happens. It happened last year. You saw the beginning of it. Now it's time for the full season version. All right, let's go to the outfield.
Hold on, let's do a whole show one time where we just go, remember Dustin Ackley?
Just call it member berries. This is what leading off's going to be. Tangents like this all the time. Maybe we'll do a random player of the day. Maybe we could do that. Member?
It'll just be called
member berry player of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, members only. That's what we're going.
I like it. All right. Sorry.
All right. Give us the outfielder who made your team here for the all breakout list.
Well, you went with the most obvious one that I agree with. So I'm going with the secondary one. And I'm not even so sure. I don't know how people feel about him. And I'm not sure I would go like out on a huge limb for it. But it's the same theme. And I'm picking Jared Kelenic. And here's one of those reasons as well. Let's go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier in the show, and I was mentioning with Joey Bart. Kelenic is in the exact same situation where uniquely this offseason, he is in a position where he has this background of real major league, experience. He has failing, like really big failing under his back. And he has a little bit of a run on the back end of the year where he started to connect a little bit. So then come this spring training, what's happening? He is being treated as the guy with the job. He hasn't always had that, send him down to the minors. He's working. I've been over to the Mariners facility 4 or 5 times. Every time he is attached at the hip with usually Mitch Haniger and now Jesse Winker. I see those guys working every single day. He's one of the last guys out on the field. It's BP hitting practice. He looks locked in, I think for a guy like Jared Kelenic, who has always succeeded, he's always kind of been the guy. He was one of the most prolific contact hitters coming out of high school. He was a face of a trade. He was a face of an organization, him and Julio, where, this team didn't have superstars and weren't winners. That's a lot of pressure. I don't mean to keep doing this, but another guy I talked to in 19 in the fall league, he told me his goal in 2020 was to make the major leagues. And he thinks of stats. Like he had a goal of being a 2020 guy in that 2019 season. And he said that was a goal that I hit, and he wants to hit the majors. So, he's reestablished new goals, but he has the one thing, like I said, I don't think he really had under him was failing. And, there's a lot of really, really good hitters there that he gets to bounce off of now. You've got obviously Mitch in the breakout, but you got like Jesse Winker, I think is a really important one for him to kind of be able to rub off on. And he's being given the opportunity to have that job. And I think it's all prime stuff. We're taking very short sample sizes on why we don't like Jared Kelenic, why he doesn't work. At the end of the day, he is a significant 5-tool player. He has been in the minors, and it just might be taking a little bit of time here. So I'm going to take my all breakout Jared Kelenic.
Any concern that Rodriguez just blows right by him?
Yeah, I think that can happen, but I don't think it's at the expense of his job. Kyle Lewis, perpetually hurt. He's hurt again. He's not doing anything on the camps. He's just kind of walking around, and he's not out there. Taylor Trammell, I think they see him as a fourth outfielder. I could be incorrect about that. Julio is starting almost every day, and he's starting in center. But I don't think that's Kelnic's job. I think it is Winker in left, Kelenic in right, and Julio in center, and you got Mitch Haniger at DH. So what's the problem here? Taylor Trammell is the only other guy, and Kyle Lewis, who is always hurt and missing time. That I think Julio Rodriguez, I've thought this for a long time, is the better dynasty option. Even when Kelenic was close.
No, that's true. Oh no, you always were you always were a Julio guy. I can attest to that for the last 3 years.
Yeah, and Julio is the bigger personality. He's the bigger star. He's going to get more attention, which could be good or bad for Jared Kelenic. But if Kelenic focuses on the game, he's not going to be overpassed for Julio Rodriguez unless he starts hitting $115 again. I'll make the bet that it's going to turn, and if it does, watch out, because he could be Robert-like. That's the type of guy that he is. He runs, he hits big homers, huge barrel contact type of guy, but he completely fell apart the last 2 years. So I will go with Jared Kelenic. I think Kelenic is like 22 years old still, 23 years old.
Yeah, he's still very young. But you were always a Julio guy over Kelenic in all those arguments back in the day. So
22.
I'm going to give you your props. 22.
Thank you very much.
He's just a boy.
He's a baby boy. He could be our child. We could be kind of like young parents.
That's more of an indictment on us. Yeah. But now we're young parents, and now we're out there enjoying life. See, that's the thing. If you are a young parent, like my buddy, he had his kids when he was on the younger side, and now they're in college or, just getting to college. And now he's got all this free time, and he's still young enough to enjoy it.
We're a little bit older. I had my first kid at 28 or something
me too. I was 30. So what are we going to do? We're old. Anyway, Joe Adell's still young.
Let's talk about
How about Joe Adell? Let's talk about him. He is just 22 years old, soon to be 23. I know last year was not great for Joe Adell at the major league level. It was kind of a disappointment, but The minor league track record is there. I believe in it. An 893 career OPS over 297 games, a career 296 hitter in the minor leagues. He's got power. He's got speed. He's crushing the ball.
He's got a spring under him right now.
He's got 3 home runs already, 3 steals, hitting 273. The OPS is 1093 right now for him. So look, Joe Adell, it's all about playing time. And I know Marsh is a nice player too. So it's whether or not he can crack over the 300 at bat plateau. If he does, I think he's going to have a breakout season. And I think he's going to force their hand. I really do. Welsh, I mean, Justin Upton's old and hurt all the time, just like us. So I think that you're going to see Joe Adell get an opportunity. And if he plays the way he's playing right now and carries this over, there's a good chance that he does go over that 300 or 350 plate appearances. And when you get that in the at-bats area, then the sky's the limit. Then he could really have a huge breakout. But I think people just get too sour too fast on guys with talent. It's crazy. Not everybody's Wander Franco or Juan Soto.
This is the exact same Kelnick thing. And I don't want to be like, oh, listen to me. But Joe Adell is somebody for about 2 years, even through all the struggles. I said, I'm just not done with Joe Adell. I'm not. He is a freak athlete. He really is. Big problem he had, though, is when he came up, nobody looked more fooled by any pitching than him. And you realize, like, oh, man, this is a freak athlete who was taking advantage of maybe not advanced pitching that he was going through the minor leagues for whatever reason it was.
Well, that's how I felt about Buxton. He was always a much better athlete than a baseball player. And he had to kind of get that over time. Yeah. He was a freakishly good athlete. And then over time, he had to kind of become a baseball player. There's been plenty of guys that have had success, and then some guys that it never happened for.
Adele's really smart too. He's like really in tune to like who he is. And so this is one more anecdotal thing. So this is like name droppy all day long. But yes, I did interview Joe Adell as well on Prospect One.
I have to get like a broom.
Welsh interviewed. But see, here's the problem though. I've been doing this for quite a while. We're now in the place where I've gotten my hands on so many minor leaguers that the major leaguers but now we're at the point where I've gotten through multiple years that all these guys are major leaguers. So I have all this reference point. It's just going to happen. But Adell was the one guy of everybody everybody always tiptoes around answers. I've asked like, what type of hitter are you? And how do you change as a hitter? Blah, blah, blah. All the guys would kind of give that same answer, be like, well, kind of a gap to gap hitter. And I'm not really trying to hit for power. It's like a cookie. Joe Adell's the only guy that didn't give me that. He's just like, no, I know when to turn on a ball. I'm absolutely trying to hit a homer. And that's probably a little bit of his mistake, by the way. But he was the only one that was really honest about how he would approach different at-bats and how he could hit for power. I'm definitely into it. The spring looks like a big connection. He had a little bit of a thing with some people that I knew about that feared he couldn't hit anything above like 93 up in the zone because he was so looking for off speed, trying to be able to adjust to off speed breaking stuff that he was beaten like crazy. And that doesn't seem to be the case now. But let me ask you this, 2 things. Joe Adell, let's play the Joe Adell projection game again. And then I got one more for you. Let's go to ATC. What do you think the Joe Adell projections
All right,
look like?
I'm going to ask you first for how many at-bats is he getting?
Okay, you got it. He is getting...
Because that's the gauge. If I don't know the at-bats, I can't even come close to these.
100 and... let's see. This is 122 games, 525 plate appearances. I'm sorry, 503 plate appearances, 126 games. Wow. 126 on ATC.
That's pretty good. So what do you want? You want stolen bases?
Let's start with homers.
Wow,
ATC.
That's more than I thought he was going to. Give him 18.
You are very, very close. 19 homers. The Bat X projects
19.
him at 18,
okay.
So that's very good. How about runs?
65.
Ooh, almost.
It's a good lineup.
60. How many RBI?
Okay. 57.
Ooh, so you would have the last one, 65 is the RBI.
Okay. So
batting average.
Okay, I see.
Batting average.
Batting average. Give me a. Let's go 260. That's my over/under on it.
241.
Yeah, I could see them going lower in the batting average. 9.
7. So check this out.
Okay.
Let's come back to that same thing we did before. These are baseline. This is a baseline for a rookie that doesn't have a long projection.
This is a fun game. I like this game, by the way.
Joe Adell, 19 homers, 7 at 240, essentially 60 and 60 if we round up. Think of upside here. What if Joe Adell does hit 260? 25 homers. Maybe he steals a little bit more. So here's the other thing I ask you, and this might be a really good poll question.
I mean, is it 228 overall right now too, by the way? So that's what you're getting potentially there.
So this might be a poll question is, which breakout outfielder do you want? Jared Kelenic, who costs a top 125 overall pick, or Joe Adell, who costs a 220 pick?
And Welsh, I'll be honest with you. We should definitely put that poll out, but I think the fallacy here, or I guess the trap, is that thinking that Kelenic's at bats are completely locked in and Adell's aren't. That at the end of the day, it might be the inverse. Like Adell might play his way into it, and Kelenic could play his way out of it potentially.
See, I think they're both in. So I would even be comfortable.
I do too.
Take away
there's that possibility, and I think that's why you see the variance in their ADP so much.
But maybe that's why also you take ADP out of the equation and you just go, who is the better breakout star for this year? Because here's the other caveat. Adell is breaking out spring. He is a hot bat in spring, where Kelenic has really not done a whole lot. So I think he's out of people's minds right now. So who is the better breakout outfield star to, for you to take a shot on? Is it Jared Kelenic or is it Joe Adell? I mean, which would you pick? You had Joe Adell on here.
I'm going to take Joe Adell. I want the cheaper one. Because I still think in the Kelenic range, there's guys that can really, I know are going to contribute still on a certain level. Kelenic's still a little bit an unknown.
I think I would pick Joe Adell right now, too, based on that exact same thing. Guys like Alex Verdugo.
And I'm not getting duped by this spring. I've seen guys have great springs and then fall on their face a million times. So, I'm not being duped by them. I'm buying into what I saw in the minor leagues and the track record. And like you said, the athleticism, that he can make adjustments. All right, let's go to the pitchers. Give me two pitchers on the breakout team for the Welsh and why.
The two pitchers I have got, Mr. Michael Kopech, who we have talked about a whole bunch.
I didn't take him from you. I left him for you.
I was happy. I was happy.
I gave you something. That's a crumb I gave you.
Michael Kopech, he's always in fantastic shape. I just was over at White Sox camp where I got my nice little Lance Lynn picture, and he was out there and he was interacting. Looks good. I mean, physically, he just is so imposing. He's probably like Lucas Giolito is jacked, dude. I don't know if everybody has seen, like when you see him in person, oh my God, he is absolutely jacked. But the second most physically imposing pitcher out there is Kopech. And the same thing as before. He was with the major league team last year, but he was returning from Tommy John. He had these injuries and he was going in a relief role. This is a year for him to be working more with the starters. Even though I have seen him with like Garrett Crochet and the relievers a little bit, I am hopeful that he is stretched out. He's such a big strikeout option. I love Michael Kopech as a big breakout. And the other one is Logan Gilbert with the Seattle Mariners. This is a year. And anecdotally, I could just tell you, I was just at Mariners camp, and this guy is so intense and locked in. 2 days ago, they had a spring. He wasn't in the game, and they have the minor league games in the back. He was out at the minor league games watching and like scouting and going through. Was just at the Mariners camp. Everybody was gone. All the pitchers far gone for the day. He stayed out on the throwing mound working by himself for over an hour. All the hitters were gone. All the pitchers were gone. And he kept out there just working, throwing at. They have these like mannequin looking hitters with a strike zone and then, a bucket for the ball. That guy was out there before I left. Like I left and he was still out there. He's one of the hardest working
guys. It's like that cardboard cutout they had in Major League. Remember when?
That's like what it was. That's exactly like what it is. It's 100%.
I think that was made of aluminum though. Pretty sure.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was the owner, if it was the lady owner, but he's a high command guy who I don't think he has the most insane stuff ever, but it's a really great organization as far as teaching spin and being able to work through all that stuff. That this is a good command pitcher. It's why I picked him last year. I thought is maybe the number one pitching prospect between him and Alek Manoah. And I think this is going to be a really important year where he's got a rotation spot. There's a fantastic team built around him with lots of runs. I hope the ERA keeps down, but I think he's going to walk into double-digit wins this year just based on the team. And he's one of the hardest workers I've ever seen as far as a pitcher goes. So Logan Gilbert, an easy breakout pitcher for me.
Yeah, I love the Gilbert pick too. I mean, everybody knew Kopech was going to get on this list, but the Gilbert one to me, and I was actually just looking a little bit more at him, and it all just makes sense, man. Like to me, it's an easy one, as you're saying. Sometimes these are just easy. Now for me, one of them is Joe Ryan, who of the Minnesota Twins, that you heard Ariel Cohn on this show a few weeks ago talk about him and what he thinks so far of his potential to really take that next step forward. You saw a little tease of it last year on the big league level, just a tease though, 5 starts, 26 innings pitched. He struck out 30 guys. He walked only 5. Look, I think he's like the number 97 prospect or something like that overall. So for some reason, he's not as higher up on the prospect list, but sometimes the guys that show up and dominate aren't always the guys 1 through 10. It's just always like that. It's
he
just the
reminds me of
nature of
Zach
the
Gallen,
beast.
by the way. Is that like Joe Ryan? Like I remember Zach Gallen.
That's a
he
good
didn't
one.
have he didn't have like the best stuff on the planet, but he kept dominating and dominating through the minors. Joe Ryan was the same thing.
Dominating is the right word, because in the minor leagues, 226 innings, 326 strikeouts, 326 strikeouts. That's an enormous number, and just 53 walks. So to me,
it's just
this is
like
a guy
Gallen,
who knows what he's doing.
I love that pick.
It's a great comp. The Gallen comp is a great one. And the other one is a guy with Tampa who I don't think everybody even remembers about, is Luis Patino, who, if he could just get healthy and on the mound, this was a prime pitching prospect just a couple years ago with the Padres that everybody was once again pushing their grandmother out of the way to get a hold of. And now it's about, does he get a crack at the rotation? Is he healthy enough? Because this is another player that has vast potential, had good control in the minor leagues, has that strikeout upside that you're looking for, 10.9 K per 9 in the minor leagues, over 263 innings. I mean, this dude was, a couple of years ago, people would ask you who's the best pitching prospect in baseball. Many people would say Patino, right? Yeah. And the Tampa Bay Rays have a pretty good track record, last time I checked, of grooming young pitching. So I'm all in on Patino this year everywhere I can get him. And then last, and maybe least, or maybe not, but let's get to the relief pitchers here. And once again, we like to sometimes, tweak this a little bit. And I already have a mea culpa, because I think a guy that I had on the bust list, you have on the breakout list now at this position. And I think I have, in a week or so of watching him pitch twice, I think I've come around. I think I'm already going to take him off my list and agree with you.
Yeah, you don't want to you don't want to take what happens in spring for the be all end all, but when you see a pitcher have their average velocity on their fastball rise by around 3 miles per hour, it's something that you have to take notice on. And that's Jesus Luzardo. I didn't go with like a closing option here, finding the right next young closer, especially young guys that are going to break out and be closers. I mean, at that point, it's Camilo Duvall, which I think you could, if there was a young guy who could start closing, he would qualify at that, and that might be a good breakout. But for guys that qualify at relief pitchers, that's what you've got. That's what you've got in Jesus Luzardo, who will qualify in over those spots. A lot of injury issues. Looks like he's commanding his pitches better. His secondaries are setting up the fastball. His fastball is going even more. And his last couple starts, I think Chris Clegg from Fantrax had noted it, which is a great note, that in his last start in spring, Luzardo threw his curveball more than his fastball. I think it was 40, 35, 36% curveball in favor of fastball, which that's a great mix. If you can command your curveball to that level and get enough swings and misses on it where you can overpower that than your fastball, then you're going to have hitters guessing all the time. And then guess what? By the way, if you can throw off-speed breaking stuff and then you can command a 98-mile-an-hour fastball that's coming off of that, you're going to give hitters fits all day long. I've also always loved Luzardo because he's a really smart, weird pitcher who does the different pitching mechanics. I don't know if he's scrapped it at all. I haven't really seen that yet, but he's one of those guys who would have his normal rotation, and then maybe his next pitch, he would stop and he would sit for 3 seconds and then throw it. Like, he literally would have 5 or 6 different ways to pitch, and it keeps timing off. And I love that with pitchers, and I hope to see that more with more confidence, better health, a better fastball, and command of secondaries. That Luzardo's, he's just going to be one of those beneficiaries for spring that I'm going to buy into. And if I'm wrong, who cares? He's
it's so cheap.
Yeah, he's cheap.
He's so free right now. Where is he right now?
I think
overall?
It's post 300, I want to say.
Is it still after this week? That's my only question.
If you're able to time search it over the last week, I'll bet you he's probably
Jesus Luzardo's up to 289 now.
Okay, yeah.
He's at 289 right now in the consensus at Fantasy Pros. NFBC 284. So all right. So it's getting more up there.
It's getting up there.
It is
getting drafted. He's no longer going to be a free agent.
It's funny though? Like on Fantrax though, he's even higher because you have a lot of dynasty leagues there.
Yeah.
So, people are taking those shots early on that. All right, last guy for me is Christian Javier. You know that relief pitcher that I'm very enamored of. Everybody, knows he's probably going to start in the bullpen. That's fine. It's April.
Actually, I think they announced it. They announced it today.
They announced it today. Yeah. And I'm not surprised. But if you think that Jake Odorizzi and Lance McCullers and those guys are going to all pitch, you're nuts. Like it's like a James Bond movie. Like, you know the formula, you know what's coming down the pike. I wish Lance McCullers was going to be healthy enough to pitch and make 30 starts this year. I just very skeptical it's going to be the case. And you're also telling me that no one else in this rotation is going to miss starts. Christian Javier is going to make starts. I think he's going to make somewhere between 15 and 20 this year. I really do. And I think that's really worth investing in, especially those mandatory RP spot leagues, because I think he's a guy that is already going to give you tons of strikeouts. The strikeout rate's off the chart. I think another year in the big leagues, once again, this guy is just electric. So I'm bidding on the talent because I think the opportunity is going to present itself sooner than later. So let's recap the team here. For the Welsh, at catcher, Joey Bart at first base, Spencer Torkelson, then Josh Rojas at second. At third, Alec Boehm, Ahmed Rosario at shortstop, the outfielder, Jared Kelenic, then Michael Kopech, Logan Gilbert are the pitchers with Jesus Luzardo. And for me, behind the dish is Tyler Stevenson. At first is Alex Kirilloff, Brendan Rodgers at second, Brian Hayes at third. At shortstop, Willie Adams, Joe Adell. In the outfield, Joe Ryan and Luis Patino are the pitchers with Christian Javier as the reliever. So pretty good list of names, Welsh. I feel like these guys are going to have some really good seasons potentially ahead of us in 2022. And just as a reminder to everybody out there, I know you got drafts coming up. Get on that. Go to FantasyPros.com/kit and get our MLB draft kit. It's free. Dominate your draft right now with the projections, the salary cap values, the cheat sheets, everything you need. And don't forget, we've also got great content at FantasyPros.com too, because we got the consensus sleeper list, which is coming out, I think, Tuesday. So depending on when you're listening to this, that consensus sleepers featured pros article is going to have a ton more names you're going to be looking for in your draft. So get on that as well. And don't forget about the giveaway right now, FantasyPros.com/MLB contest. When you subscribe to our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/FantasyPros MLB. That's the channel you need. Thanks to our friends at Pristine Auction. That Austin Riley jersey can be yours. And don't forget, the Welsh and me, Joey P, 5 days a week, talking baseball and leading off right here on our YouTube channel live at noon. So you have lunch or you get to your office at 9 o'clock if you're on the West Coast or whatever. You get to your home office, whatever people do nowadays.
Home office.
Let's spend some quality time with us. Oh, we're going to have the ratings are going to be through the roof this year.
Through the roof. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of a like Dan Harris miss that's going to happen, but hopefully we can. I cannot
wait for the first person on the chat there in the comments to say, "Who's this guy? Where's Dan Harris?"
Dan Harris gained a lot of weight.
Dan Harris looks different. I don't understand what is going on here. But anyway, they will
Dan's
love
out
you.
Fighting crime.
Everyone
He's a
loves you
superhero
already.
now. So sorry.
Everybody loves you already. He's fighting crime. He is the Bruce Wayne to the Gotham City somewhere in the great
Dan Harris. He's walking
area.
around. I'm vengeance. I'm like, all right, Dan. I thought you were Dan Harris.
I think it's more like vengeance. This. I'm vengeance. I'm pretty sure it's more like.
I'll make fun of his voice. I'm going to tell him you just did that impression.
Dan. You can tell me. Because he didn't make fun of me on the live stream. That's what friends do. You make fun of each other, and then inevitably someone slaps somebody. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on for the Welsh. I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.